What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of Zadvice and coffee. Oh, we're just running out of ice here, aren't we? Well, today I decided I'd turn on my big camera because, sometimes I get sick of just doing this on the phone, and it's a very important topic today. Today, I want to talk to you about Jiu Jitsu and why it's been so important to me and so transformational in my life, honestly. You got the lo-fi playing at just the right temperature, let's talk. So, Jiu Jitsu has been a big part of my life for the past 5 years, and I was originally exposed to it in 2009 when I played in a movie called Caged Dreams, which was an MMA short film I starred in and shot in Tampa. When I was still in Florida, and that sparked my curiosity for it, but I didn't start training officially until 2015. In 2015, I had just been in LA a short time, and I was walking down the street and I saw a Jiu Jitsu school, and I walked in and I never left. Jiu Jitsu is incredible because it is, from my experience, and I've done several different martial arts over the years. I've done, karate, Tang Soo Do, I've done Kung Fu, I've done, Kali, Eskrima, Salat, I've done some Muay Thai, like not deep in all those, but had experiences with all those different types of martial arts. And I can tell you that for me, Jiu Jitsu is the most incredible blend of intellectual stimulation, physical exertion, and fun. And the reason is because Jiu Jitsu is a grappling martial art. What that means is that when you roll with someone, which is what we call sparring, when you roll with someone, you can pretty much go 100% to whatever your capabilities will allow you to, because you're not striking like you would be in boxing or you would be in Muay Thai. And in those practices, there's a certain amount of restraint you have to use because if you punch someone in the face, you could seriously hurt them. And in order for you to keep training enough, you don't want to constantly be getting hit with maximum knockout power in the head. So there's some restraint that you're using there. And with Jiu Jitsu, on the other hand, when you're rolling with someone and you're doing different things, like for instance strangles or chokes, or you're doing arm locks or joint manipulations where you're simulating breaking a bone, when you tap out on somebody, what that signifies is if I hadn't tapped out, you would have either killed me or you would have broken that bone. But there's enough time in between that action and your tap where you can stop it from getting too bad. And what that means is that you can go 100% with someone. You can go 100% with them, and you can really test your limits. And there aren't as many arts out there where you can really see how good you are at any given time. I love Jiu Jitsu because it's a mental game. There's so much chess involved, and there are so many different positions. It's human chess. If you think about having 4 limbs, you have your neck, which is kind of a limb as well. You have your body position. You have all the different ways that two human bodies can fit together, which is innumerable once you start studying this stuff. And you realize that there are always new positions to learn, and there are always ways to counter and to attack from certain angles. And the way that you engage with an opponent is it's so complex. There's so much to learn that you'll never actually learn all of Jiu Jitsu, and that alone keeps you so stimulated through the process. For me, I've learned so many different things from this training, and I've become a different person. I've really become a better man through this training. One of the things that's really brought me is it's brought me a lot of confidence. I think that when you're a young kid and you're training in martial arts, and maybe if you've seen like the McDojos of the the Taekwondo world, you see that they have kids class and they'll be like, gain confidence and self-respect. And I think that maybe that's become such a marketing pitch that we don't really think about what that means. But for me, understanding how my body reacts under stress and under perceived danger, and sometimes very real danger when I'm training, it allows me to know myself better. And by knowing myself better, I have more respect for myself, and I know my limits, and I understand where I stand in relation to others. I also have respect for others because I know that there are 110-pound girls who have had choke me out and I couldn't stop them. And it gives me a lot of respect for people without having to feel like I need to exert my machismo over them. And I feel like in a lot of cases, fighters are seen as people who are who have this natural machismo to want to prove themselves. But when you really start training with real martial artists, especially in an environment like Jiu Jitsu, you see there's a lot of respect and honor that goes into it. And you don't actually want to fight. And that's the thing, when you start training in Jits, you're going to get to a point where you just don't even really want to fight outside of the gym, because you have a much greater understanding of what can happen in a fight. I was never like super pugnacious. I was never wanting to fight, but I understand now that during a critical situation, I know how to stay safe and how to get myself out of that situation. And I know that, I know what the distance is between someone who's trying to engage with me, and I know how to stay away from the distance so in case I don't want to fight. I know how to escape from things without hurting myself or them. And all of that is before actually talking about the actual fighting skills. Really, learning how to fight is the only thing that will teach you how to not have to fight. If you know how to fight, you can disengage from a fighting situation, or you can get out as safely as possible. If you don't know how to fight and someone wants to fight you, you have no choice. They're going to be the aggressor, and you have to respond. If you do know how to fight and you've been trained, you don't feel as shaken up by someone who wants to hurt you, who wants to cause problems with you. And there's this confidence and this inner knowing that comes from engaging in that every day voluntarily and recreationally. When you go to the gym and you're rolling with someone and they're trying to choke you or break your arm or smash your face, and your pulse is quickening and you're sweating and you're in a really bad position and you're feeling like you're out of air, all these things give you that fight or flight reaction. And most people go throughout their lives never having the idea of what it feels like to be in a fight or flight situation, because we're not usually challenged like this. But when that situation does happen, and God forbid it does for you, you want to know how your body's going to react. You want to feel what that adrenaline feels like. You want to be able to understand your surroundings. You want to be able to know what your distances are. You want to be able to understand how to manipulate someone else's body. Jiu-Jitsu is such a crazy tool that, when it came to the UFC in the very beginning of the early MMA days, it was seen as a secret weapon that people just couldn't understand and couldn't defeat, because most people are used to thinking about fighting on their feet and punching and maybe even kicking, but on the ground it's a completely different world. You don't have the same points of leverage. You can't really punch off the ground as well or kick off the ground as well as you could if you were standing up, and most people are just drowning. And even for a jiu-jitsu white belt who's been training for 6 months, they know so much more about ground fighting than the average person that it's a scary disadvantage. And the reality is many fights end up on the ground, or at the very least they end up in a clinch where you're connected to someone very tightly, and that's how you can take someone down. And so knowing how to fight off the ground, or even how to fight off your back, which most people don't know, how to take someone's back, how to manipulate their body, and even if you don't want to actually inflict pain on them, how to shut them down completely is it's a super valuable life skill, and it's given me a lot of courage and a lot of self-appreciation and a lot of self-respect. And it's a fantastic workout. It's going to get you in shape. If you want to lose weight, you'll get ripped because it's so much cardio involved. Competing has been a huge thing for me as well. I've competed probably 5 or 6 times now, so I'm not like the world's maybe 7 times. I'm not like the world's best competitor, and I'd like to do more in the future. It takes a lot of mental energy for me to do that, so I'm not always competing. I competed last year and I won my class or whatever. That was cool. I got a medal. That was fun, and I'll do more. But just having the experience of having competed and knowing what it feels like to be in those tense situations and being able to master your emotions and master your thoughts in those dark times is such a useful life skill. It transfers. And hey, I'm only a blue belt. I've been training for 5 years, and I'm like in the middle of my blue belt. And there are 5 belts, white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. And after black, there's several different degrees and even more belt after that. But it's only the beginning. I would say the average blue belt could completely fuck up a normal person who has no training experience. I would say that pretty much at this point, like, I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm good, I've learned everything. Far from it. And even when I'm a black belt, I won't know everything. But I would say I know enough now to feel very confident in myself, to feel like I can take care of whatever business needs to get taken care of, and not be too worried in an everyday fight scenario. And that's been invaluable for me. It's taught me perseverance. You know, I've gotten tons of different little injuries here and there. I'm trying to play it down now. I've got a fair amount of injuries, not things that ever stopped me from coming in for a long time, but you know, I've broken, I think I probably was a fracture my hand. I've had different like muscle pains and stuff. I mean, sprains and pains and aches, and training is hard, you know, and it teaches you to mentally persevere through these things. But all of it is a metaphor for life. And I think once you start training, it can be any martial art. For me, it's Jiu Jitsu. But for me, Jiu Jitsu has been about learning the way. And the way, you know, that's the Tao. That's literally what the Tao translates to, is the way. And you find that learning the way through Jiu Jitsu, you'll see, oh, well, you know, I'm rolling like this, and the way to master this concept is through focusing on this element and mastering this process. And you'll find that the processes for mastering something like Jiu Jitsu applies to other things like business, or like meditation, or like any other skill that you want to master. All of these things have correlations. And so I start to see how Jiu Jitsu is reflected in my life, and my life is reflected in Jiu Jitsu. And it's a beautiful thing. I strongly encourage you to take a class if you haven't already. I strongly encourage you to undergo this very important, vital training in your life, because entrepreneurs are so focused on business that we often let other very important, equally important areas of our life slide. And there's more to life than just building businesses. You're trying to build yourself. And this is very important. So check it out. Leave a comment below if you've tried Jiu Jitsu or a martial art before, and what you thought about it. I'd love to hear from you, and hit me up via text, because, you know, recently what I found is that I'm just very sick of Instagram. I don't have anything against it personally. I'm just kind of sick of being on there, so I'm not on there as much anymore. And I'm gonna start posting these videos exclusively on YouTube. So you can hit me up via text. +1 704 343 6659. That's my super phone, and I get everyone's text. I respond back, and it helps me to know who you are. And if I haven't talked to you on there before, I'll shoot you back an automated text message. It will say, hey, this is Daniel. Let me know your first name, and so I can lock you on my phone, and that will allow me to get to know you a bit better. So anyway, much love. Hope you enjoyed this Zadvice and this coffee. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.